So first tell me,
Hi, Adrian.
Commissioner, what you found in Thomas Jefferson Park and what's your level of concern for people who've been using that park. I know that park, and it's very actively used all year round, flag football in the winter and everything else.
Yeah, it's also a park I know well. Both my kids grew up playing soccer on that very field. What we found was a slightly elevated lead level in some of the crumb rubber infill. And out of an abundance of caution, we've closed it down. We're going to remove the rubber infill. And we're testing all the other synthetic turf fields. The good news, Brian, is that of the approximately 100 or so other fields, the 50 results that have come back so far have all been negative. So we think that the Thomas Jefferson Field is probably some kind of an aberration.
What happened? What do you think happened?
It's hard to say. We don't know, and we really have to talk to the experts about that, the health experts or the scientists. You know, Thomas Jefferson is an old park. It's possible there's something in the soil there that contaminated the rubber. It's possible there was some contaminated rubber. We're going to do everything we can to find out why, but the more important thing is just to get it out of there. It's also it's also while I think we did the right thing in closing it down. It's not clear that what the health risk would have been, because even if you were eating the rubber, which you probably shouldn't do, it's not clear that the lead would have been accessible. So there's just so many things we don't know about it. Out of an abundance of caution, with the recommendation of the health department, who we work very closely with on these things, we said, let's just close it down and not take any risks.
Betsy Gotbaum, you were a parks commissioner from 1990 to 93, so you understand the role. And now you're calling for a moratorium on the installation of these turf fields. But you just heard the commissioner say that the 50 other fields tested so far have all come back negative for lead.
Right. Well, let me start off with saying, yes, I was parks commissioner. I totally agree with everybody, including Adrian, all the time about how important parks are to New Yorkers. But 2 years ago, I came out and I asked that these fields be tested, that the testing be done, and both Commissioner Benepe and later on Commissioner Frieden, Department of Health, said no, we don't need to test. And you know, we got into a lot of controversy about it, and I'm really worried and have been worried for 2 years. This is 2 years in the coming. I'm worried about the potential health problems, of course. I know that in the summertime some of these fields, the artificial ones, get as hot as 160 degrees and above. And there's also the other kind of environmental problem, which is a big one in New York City, that's the stormwater runoff that clogs the overburdened sewers from these artificial fields. So I feel, one, that what would have been wrong 2 years ago with testing, and we did have this argument and fight, Adrian, you remember it well, and Tom Frieden too, and I just don't understand why, if now all of a sudden we've started testing, let's look at the test. Let's be very open and transparent about what the test was done, how it was done, what you found, what you didn't find. If you found that there's nothing in those 50 parks, that's great. But I'd like to know the rest of the 35 more parks. And I think it's something that if we're open and open about it, you know what? I will be the first person to get out there and say, great, we've tested them. We know they're okay. Let's go. Okay. But in the meantime,
I don't think we should be... Commissioner, do you have more to disclose?
Yeah. First of all, we're working very closely, not just with the health department, but also with parks and public health advocates like New Yorkers for Parks, the NRDC, the Mount Sinai Hospital. And in fact, we did agree to do testing in agreement with these groups. And also we think, I think Betsy has a lot of good stuff to say about this. It's her role as public advocate to worry about things like this. And no one's more concerned about children's health than we are. That's why we installed the fields in the first place. It's easy to say that synthetic turf fields are bad, and some people say that. But there's a lot of environmental liabilities with so-called natural grass fields. You have to use tons of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. You have to use a lot of grass. The machinery used to maintain natural grass fields, you can drive a car 150 miles with the amount of gas it takes to run a lawnmower for 1 hour.
Okay.
They're incredibly polluting things, so-called natural grass fields. So, what we have to do as public policy people is sort of look at what's right, what's safe, what's good, and then you make decisions. And